I'm testing something right now in regard to making my my upload because I kind of want uh music to play in the back of my video. So this is Foreigner. I want to know what love is playing in the background, and it says 1999 remaster. Um, I'm trying to make a, and I think that that's reference enough to use because it's such old music. And now this one's Drive Remaster 2017, the Cars. I might just turn it off because the arguments back and forth of all these entertainers from who even then, when this song was new in the 80s, this band was probably well into their 50s and 60s even then. And I'm only chronologically 58 years old. And so let me turn that down because it's kind of like over referencing Einstein, in my opinion. I wanted to just really touch on, because I was watching uh, another documentary about the Cuneiform tablets, or I'm using the word tablet because it kind of looks like a tablet, and I don't know if they use that word to describe it. I know tablets are the word tablet is used in in the in reference to, now I can't, the rune tablets, and how all that verbiage was used in designing, like, today's technology, or at least in reference, when I say today's technology, in reference to when the technology was released on the market for sale to the everyday victim comes to mind. Because I believe and I can see evidence of, and I already did. It's just simply more in my mind. It's become more an acceptance that I realize that a lot of technology on the market today was actually designed decades ago. And I've found evidence of that enough times that I'm confident in myself in stating that I know it as fact. And another thing I'm getting close to, as far as my own acceptance, in as in I realize like 100% that that movies and music released on the market may have been uh, made and produced, made as in um, MADE, because the word MAID is coming up with my name attached to it, because there's constant battle of people who are trying to justify getting into my apartment while I'm gone. And then there's the whole flip flop issue where I'm called as soon as someone around a placed operative sees me cleaning my apartment, then conversations buzzing around me that psychologists want you to believe are voices in your head, um, then they try to make me look like the maid, because um, people who aren't on my lease are constantly trying to get into my apartment and they're constantly trying to justify being in my apartment while I'm gone. And they use all this networking strategy to 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 keep themselves off of the dockets, I guess, the court dockets. Um, the and I really don't want to do this disclaimer right now, because this wasn't supposed to be about my rental situation, but because it also has to do with my and I know that what I'm saying here in this live stream might help others who might be battling the same thing, because people like myself who stay and are looking for actual stability, as in regular housing, like staying housed, um and uh, and haven't left town back and forth, because there are certain questions you're asked when you are seeking uh, um, housing through the county government, or through the state government, or through the federal government. And one of those questions are, how long have you been in town? How long have you been? And I myself, fingerprints again, and I just uh, recently, every time I make steps to gain or to access more stable security in regard to my identity, then somebody comes along and throws me into a tailspin, just with the same old politics I've been fighting against for since I became aware of how I've been used as a pawn in other people's politics. So something like that happened yesterday. I don't want to go into it. Um, but I want and need to go into the fact that I am uh I have noticed that when you're seeking stability, as in actual stability, um in regard to everything about your existence, um that would be mental, excuse me, mental stability, if you're a person who's PT uh, experiencing PTSD, or any kind of and I think PTSD is really the only diagnosis that I find to be legitimate, because of what I personally have been through. Um, and I'm talking about psychological diagnosis, because all the other ones, everybody, not because of that. I want to stop there with because I don't want to. Um, I definitely want to say that the things that I have experienced, and even what I experienced yesterday, it causes me issue, because when I'm trying to make efforts to uh, e- and capture my own psyche, and somebody comes along with the same old strategy and technique. When I've stated publicly many times, I'm not accepting the uh, 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 the person and their allegation in regard to the race card. I'm going to throw it back, plain and simple. And as you can see, and as I've posted it, and as anybody that I've ever had a conversation with, unless I'm really, really angry, and even then, I have uh, problems putting together my thoughts um, in a clear, concise manner. And honestly, I always have had, and I explained that to one of my caseworkers since I was a little girl. And that might be because I was always cut out of conversations. Um, so I never learned to effectively um, verbally communicate um, because I was always told to shut up. Speak when you're if you're when you're spoken to, and I was never spoken to, and that went on throughout my life. So I was set up from the time I was a child, and to not be I have never been able to effectively uh verbally communicate. um and was made fun of, and not to blame a certain person, because my children didn't know how I was treated as a child growing up, because I didn't do a lot of complaining about my childhood or really anything to my children, because my children were born and conceived not to be my leaning post. Although I know at times my daughter Jennifer did, and even probably my daughter Elsa, who is only 4 or 5. Um, I didn't really use my daughter. I didn't use any of my children as a leaning post, but it may have seemed like that because I had bouts of depression where I wasn't as um or like my older daughter might have heard me crying, and she felt my pain, and therefore um is really the only way that I think either of my children um and I can remember being so depressed one morning, and my daughter Elsa was saying, because I was trying so very hard to keep custody of my children, and now, or my daughter Elsa, and now I realize that the battle I was being put through by the state was causing me more stress than what the state was helping me to attain in regard to stability for myself and my child. And I also now realize that um my civil, human, and religious rights were being and are and have uh, up until present day been violated um by the states of Colorado and Maryland and many others who participated. So lawsuits can continue in regard to professional or lawsuits against professionals, and I think the correct terminology is malpractice. And even though we usually only use that in regard to the medical field and our medical experiences, I think that we can attach the word I can sue for malpractice of a minister, of and against a county worker, a um, a um, a doctor, of course, employees that are supposed to be and have clients in in their in their care in regard to the expectation of the client and the logical interpretation of the title of the position of the employee. Um, and in regard to today's day and age, I think that even more employees need to be more aware because everyone does. Because, and this isn't something that I didn't cause all the chaos um, around me. When you're put under, your life is put under, my life was put under a micro uh, a microscope, like an electron microscope. I felt like a specimen under an electron microscope for how much me and my children were constantly being probed intellectually and emotionally. And there's a number of instances that I can speak on in regard to that way of being treated by uh, people who are supposed to be in caring uh, in the care, or people who were supposed to be in caring positions. And and just really quickly, a very quick instance, because I lost material property um, when I was told to leave Champa House, even when, upon reading and entering the Champa House program, and I think it was 2009. I'm not going to overtax my brain yet again right now. Um, in reading and unfortunately, I don't have a copy of, but I'm certain someone does, from 2009, where the Champa House manual states no client uh, can be thrown out of the program unless the client has broken the drug and or alcohol policy, which I didn't. Now, weeks before, pretty much all of the clients, except for myself, had broken rules in regard to getting on using the computer room and the computers and in the middle of the night uh, for computer activities they weren't supposed to be using. And that was a big huge thing in the house. In other words, I'm right now, even as I'm telling the story, I'm realizing how I was scapegoated for that, because it wouldn't go away. It kept coming up. So there might have been more involved um in regard to the other clients at the time and what activity was actually taking place. And I would like to stay focused right now on my own benefit, and in benefit to my own biological children, the fact that me and my toddler were kicked out of in 2009 the Champa House program, even though the manual states that no one can be uh, that no one can be kicked out of the program unless that no one it's sort of like coming back on me even as I go public with the story. And that's because I'm bringing forth uh, financial lawsuits that everyone involved well knows that I'm telling the truth about, and that legally, um, I am entitled. And I know Dr. Phil doesn't like the word entitled, um, but a financial lawsuit settlement in regard to my personal belongings that I couldn't take with me, up to and including my automobile, the Saturn that I drove and donated and was encouraged to donate to the Champa House program upon entering the Champa House program. And then I was forced out in January of 2010, I think it was, into the into the cold with nowhere to go and no way to take my belongings anywhere. I didn't have transportation because I had been encouraged to donate my Saturn that I was driving, that I initially got free as a donation from the Catholic Church in Maryland, but actually ended up paying for because weeks after and before I came to Colorado, the engine had blew. So I actually paid $1,800 for the Saturn, which was the same amount within, give or take, because I can't remember the exact amount. I only remember it was like within $100 or $200 within the assigned value of the automobile. When I was asked to leave the Champa House program, I had much belongings that because there were donations brought in pretty much every day, that we all of us, all of the clients were um, given knowledge of. And they were all very nice. Champa House was received pretty uh, like, for instance, there was one big load of Vera Wang, which, uh, as a commitment of my attire, I don't, but there were some Vera Wang outfits that I had, or dresses, and I had gotten from donations skis and and what do they call, ice skates, and a lot of very much clothes for myself and my daughter. And so I had all that stuff and then other stuff that I had bought myself. Um, and of course my car. And I had written after that emotional experience of being um asked to leave a week after I had and was experiencing what I'm certain was a stroke in 2009, or and standing in front of the two employees, the minister and the director of Champa House at the time. Um, and I've talked about this several times. So that experience in itself was a setup for future experiences. And uh, I have to present a a way, a wall of protection for myself and my children to end that momentum of those who created a momentum of me and my children being uh, victimized in such a sort of what a rolling um, event. Uh, and um, and so I spend a lot of time presenting my cases, uh, which I have to, because I'm constantly under pressure from outsiders who are practiced invasionists, um, and thieves. And it's, again, it's not one particular skin color or one particular religion that I know of, um, because what I've experienced is several different cultures from. And when I say several different cultures, I'm talking about, when I say culture, I'm not necessarily talking about a religion or a skin color, because that's not what a culture is. There are some cultures who I imagine identify with their skin color, specifically. I don't know. But I'm talking about different cultures, even corporate cultures. Um, it's amazing to me the number of people who look at me as though I'm stupid and clueless. So I'm thinking to myself, what exactly, sir, do you think I'm clueless about? Because I'm feeling right now that you have some information about yet another possible culture or network who's planning to uh, come upon me as as an invasionist, or as something even worse than I've already experienced. And I've experienced enough, and as I've talked about before, in my experiences, and the fact that I feel as though any woman, biological mother, who has experienced anything even close to what I've experienced, because I think I've experienced too much. I know the length of the PTSD that I have, and I'm trying on a constant basis to recover from. So, women, boys, children, youth, men who have experienced anything even close or more than I've experienced, I am not in fear myself of the future of the human existence. But those who have practiced invasionist strategies should start getting a little scared and looking around at the chaos they have created for not only the person or persons they've constantly come against just for strategic and political or financial or whatever their motivation, but that they should slow themselves down and take a look around at the things that are going on. And as I continue to tell people, I have never had my hand on a weapon. I've never held a gun. I think I've only seen 4 guns, and no, that's not true because I went to uh that temp position that I worked at, which was a cheerleading dinner, a cheerleading awards dinner in one room, which is the one that I was working. And then in the other room was a gun show where there was, so that's the most guns that I've ever seen in my lifetime, uh, at all. But aside from that gun show, um, I have only laid my eyes on, uh, I think 4 guns in my entire life. I've never used a gun. I've never, I've never even played laser tag, and that's something else that I'm made fun of for while being accused, like in some really far-fetched manner. I'm made fun of, as an easy target because I don't have the skills of a practiced uh, I don't know what you call someone who is a practiced um, marksman. That's what you call it. I'm not a practiced marksman, and yet I know many people who have victimized me who are. And so, we're sitting around, I'm sitting around laughing as in like snapping because no one can seem to freaking logically put together that I myself am not a violent person and I don't have skills of a marks person. And yet I'm constantly surrounded by, as in the bullseye, and I'm not BSing anyone. Um, so it's really a difficult position to be in. And I haven't even had a car to be able to, when I feel like I'm in danger, hop in my car and take off for a few hours. And yet I'm continually made to look like uh, a flight risk. um, of what I'm sick. I can't ponder because then they tried to load me down with tags of guilt of me, their guilt of me and my biological children. Uh, so I'm constantly in deflect mode where, and I've stated I don't want to. I have no desire to bulk up. I have no desire to play a defensive NFL team player by proxy, and I'm not going to. Um, uh, I've made public statements where people look at me when I say stuff like what I just said, like, what is she talking about? Well, sorry if you're not made uh, hyper aware enough of your own physical, intellectual, and or emotional safety that you've been forced, such as I have, to be like aware on so many levels of how you're being, you and or your children might be being used. Um Again, you might slow down your rapid fire verbiage to maybe look out for your own instead of seeking out the same woman you've sought out uh, as the object of your pawnship, or as a pawn in your politics. And when I say you, and unfortunately, like I said, I had an experience yesterday that involved so you know sorry if that person's going to be um the the attention in my mind of what I'm speaking on, but he was the straw that broke the camel's back again. And I don't that's not a command. I'm not trying to get my back broken. Um, or my children's. Uh, it's very frustrating. Very, 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 very frustrating to, if I need to picture myself as Wonder Woman with the bracelets deflecting all the tags and all the charges of the guilty people of me. So I'm going to end here because I didn't really sign on to go into my this part of my uh, recovery process. I actually wanted to talk about something that I had something that I had recently connecting in regard to information about the cuneiform. So I think I'm just gonna stay connected and speak on uh, the cuneiform and what I started to be able to see, and the interesting but not interesting. It's like you start to look at it and it starts to reveal itself, um because it is very detailed. Uh, um, in other words, usually on these shows, when they show different things, I can come up with a theory or an interpretation or a, a logical theory or some kind of. And with the cuneiform, I never can. And so I try to veer away from giving it my attention because I figure there must be a reason. And I don't want to delve that deep into something might that my psyche doesn't want to delve into for some reason. But more recently, I was watching a show that really probably one of the same shows, and actually there's several different there's several different shows that attend to the cuneiform discoveries. um I imagine by now that they're all connected, like they all those men and or women know each other by now. And so maybe uh there's a coming together of theory being, because it's been such a mystery for so long. And the the fact that again, and a black and white photo comes up on my television screen, Kiss on My List, Daryl Hall and John Oates at one of their concerts, and it's a black and white photo. And I've stated many times, I used to really, and I'm talking on this because it's what I see when I look at the cuneiform. Um, it looks like static. And as far as black and white photography goes, and Ansel Adams, and these are where black and white photography, and this is what comes up now when I recently, like within the last few days, um was watching a show. In other words, it's not a forced connection. It's not something that I sought out. Oh, but it's like it reveals itself to me. And the the connection that comes naturally is a few different things. It started to look like, I started to see like um escalators and blocks, and like blocks as in symbolic, like it looks symbolic on a level. And it's like trying to show us as a human race that here's three steps here, then there's a block. Here's three steps here, then there's a block. So it's almost like, and I don't like to overly uh credit, because then these people start developing egos that we have to fight against, and then they're adding to the very the very relevance or revealance of what their ancestors were warning them of. And instead of heeding their own ancestors, or not ancestors, um uh, um warning, they turn it in, it starts, and I've seen and experienced it through every archaeological discovery that I've followed via uh, documentaries that have been posted, that those their ancestors start to get, their ego starts to get. And so what I see the cuneiform is that, I don't want to say who it is because I can't remember, and I don't want to misstate the the people who created the cuneiform tablets, but it is revealing itself to me after a number of years. When did we first hear? When did I first hear of the cuneiforms? More than a decade ago, I'm certain, and I've never given them very much attention, because unless something gives me an immediate feedback, I don't delve into it, um, because I feel like it's not my it's not it, it's not my interest. It's not directed towards me. Um, and in fact, as a warning, it's not and isn't wasn't directed at me, because I'm not a participator. I'm not participant in overbuilding of, or overdoing, or over being an invasionist, or what I see the warning of the cuneiform as being, as a warning to humanity, that those peoples could see happening, um, and actually is happening. And everyone's being stopped in their tracks. What I see as in um, the overbuilding of the earth, in regard to overbuilding and overpopulation of the earth, and everybody's fighting for anything that they can possibly get. And I think, to view and see the cuneiform as an actual uh, illustration by those peoples from so many centuries ago, that would be a good idea for those invasionists to heed, for their own good, as much as, and I'm not giving a threat in regard to, uh, uh, I'm saying, look, I'm not an invasionist. I've never been, but I'm telling you, all the shows that I watch, and I'm talking about all of them, and the cuneiform seems to be the most deep seated, like, um it's almost like, to me, it's almost like, it seems like a final warning to humanity. The earth is either going to explode, or it's going to completely swallow us all up, in other words. And that's what I see in the cuneiform. And I can see little tiny pyramids, and I can see, and Prince is on my screen right now. And I think that he is connected. The reason he's on my screen is because he is connected ancestrally to that, because I can see it. And in fact, I feel as though I am also, because when I am thin, I have a similar facial as does my daughter Jennifer. My daughter Elsa has a similarity facially to how I looked when I was a little girl. And my daughter Jennifer's facial look around the same age as when I was. I have a similar look, although it looks like my nose is a little bit bigger um, than those people's. And and therefore therefore I can see the cuneiform as a warning of the the two instances I just said, that the earth is either going to completely explode because it's been overbuilt on and overpopulated, um, or it's going to completely swallow up all of humanity. Um, and I don't have control of either outcome or um, I don't know what the outcome really isn't the right word, either event. So so then just looking at the cuneiform tablet, then I started to see static, like black and white television static, the way when uh, uh, televisions would go off the air. Like we don't experience it now. Now our screen goes to a cute little uh, picture that plays if we leave our television on. But anybody old enough, because I don't know when it changed specifically, as in year or whatever, but televisions used to go to either the emergency broadcast system, like color bars, and a not really high pitched, but um, because I know that everything I'm saying right now is significant in regard to understanding or forming uh, theories in the evolution of electricity. And when I look at the cuneiform um, now, um, I can see it. The initial thing I began to see was it as a warning of to humanity. And then as I look at it a little longer, then I start to see the stair steps and almost like escalators, short little escalators. And then I could start to see the pyramids, and then I could start to see the electric static of black and white static. And and then I started to think about, of course, Tesla, because he's possibly only because of the automobile industry, which I don't, I'll say very publicly, I don't like the direction that automobiles are going into. I would rather ride in a drone mobile that is um, connected to the energy that a diamond gives off. Whatever that energy is, I don't know. But I know that diamonds hold an energy, uh, emotion, energy. And I'd rather be riding in a drone mobile that has diamond energy as fuel than electrical energy as fuel, because I don't experience physical pain when I think about the energy of a diamond. And that has not and shouldn't be interpreted as, oh, well, she likes bling, or she's materialistic, because I myself have rarely worn a diamond throughout my lifetime or had access to diamonds. However, I recently have a claim. But for my own personal energy, aside from my claim, for my own personal energy, I think that diamonds can be used in and as fuel and or energy in replacement of electrical fuel, because I don't like how I feel with when I feel like I'm being electrically charged. And that's the way that I feel when I drive, which I've driven an electric car before. It attaches my psyche to the car in a place in my psyche that is very uncomfortable and very, to me, deadening of my human spirit. And when I think about the energy of a diamond, um, an energy in regard to the frequency involved, I'm at a much more comfortable communication level and breathing level and everything else. So, um, and it possibly, those who are those who are connected ancestrally to the Cuneiforms might want to listen to what I'm saying also, um, because I can see static and electrical energy as part of the warning, and this has nothing to do with um I'm not trying to take Tesla down necessarily, because um I don't think that everyone naturally communicates or receives energy. There's a fly sitting directly on my um um in other words, I don't want to be forced into, and I don't want and I don't want to force others into a frequency level or an existence level as far as where they're receiving artificial or natural energy from, because I can stand on a tree stump after it's been freshly cut down and feel literally energized. And it's not and it's a comfortable energy. It's not like somebody's plugging me in to an electric socket, which is what I feel right now. Um, and so I don't know if other people are physically comfortable with um, physically, intellectually, and emotionally comfortable. I'm talking about with being connected to electrical energy. I'm not. I'm not. Yes, do I want, because it's the only thing available right now to be able to plug my lights in? Um, yes, but I find that driving an electric car puts me too electric, makes me feel too electrically charged. In other words, there's something actually going on there. It's causing me like an electrical overload, like by driving an automobile. If it doesn't do that to others, then fine, you know. But I'm saying for future, I would rather be riding in a drone mobile that's flying however many feet above diamond energy fuel can supply for safe elevation. In other words, an elevation as in where or how high altitude diamond energy will take me. And again, I'm talking specifically and literally about the energy that a diamond gives off, not as in, somebody go out and buy me a bunch of diamonds because, oh my gosh, I just want to look fabu. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about looking into the energy of a diamond as fuel in replacement of electricity for those such as myself who feel a physiological reaction that isn't comfortable to driving or when driving an electrical automobile. And hopefully Tesla doesn't, get in and start sending their operatives out to attack me and whatnot, which is what might have been going on yesterday. Um, because there doesn't need to be that much competition. Because as De Beers has even stated, and Mr. Dabney from my civics class, I think it was Mr. Dabney, it might have been Mr. Gahn, it might have been both of them, that there were at the time um, far more being the name of the one of the establishments I always forget to put on my resume because I only worked there for 2 weeks or something like that. Um, and I think that there are governments who are aware of exactly what I'm talking on, which is probably another reason why I get and come up with so much opposition because of my claim. And the what I'm saying about diamonds is actually um, true and good information and researchable and and when I say a new, they might already someone might already be designing and using diamonds uh, and for exactly what I'm talking about, and instead of it being an open market and being able to be shared as an on uh, um, an endeavor to have more equal economies. In other words, just because it's a diamond fueled vehicle, uh, it doesn't mean if it were my automobile company, I don't want an over I would like them to be produced and sold on a market at a much lower cost to and for everyone to be able to have, everyone who is more comfortable with the energy, a diamond being used as energy as far as physiological and intellectual response to spoken energy of a diamond, as opposed to the energy of electricity. I got a bunch of smiling guys on my screen right now who, let's see, at least 4 out of 6 of them, it looks like, have blonde hair and blue eyes. um, anyway, uh, I wanted to speak on that. So, brings tears to my eyes. Happy tears that possibly I can get my voice heard in an upcoming market, and thereby helping to keep the costs of and what's historically been seen as a war ringtone. Sorry to use the word, but or the name, but I know that that name was chosen specifically. In other words, the diamond has been used. It's used in telephone technology, and it's used in weaponry. And I would rather it be used in a more peaceful manner, such as being an instrument to attain peace on earth, not war. Signing off for the moment.